Okay, so here we have the Dark Ops video on how to make the World War II Boulangerie from the Overlord range. I'm just going to give you an overview of what's in the kit, and also we'll be needing some good quality PVA. We recommend Gorilla Glue because it sets really quickly and gives you a nice strong bond. But there are other ones available in the market. We use an emery board and also a brush. I'm going to pour the glue into here. We're going to use it on a brush just to give it easier to applicate than using this all the time. So there's a little bit of a recommendation. It comes with a drain pipe and some card, which is cut into the roofing tiles to give you the roof tiles effect. So we'll go through how to quickly put those on. There's also card where you can mould it into the shape of the guttering. And there's 2mm and there's 3mm sheets of MDF in the kit. Okay, so we'll find the first bits that you need and we'll get started. Okay, first of all you'll need to find sprue A, and you'll need the base plate. What we've done is we've give it a bit of a sort of a paved area with some cobbles at the front, so you've got a nice steady base. So as you're using it modularly, you can just put it down. It looks like it's part of the scenery. There's a hole there where the drain pipe will go, and also the floor for the first floor is in 3mm, and you've got the walls, the main walls are also in 3mm. So you've got a nice thick main structure, and of the C and D is also, and then these two, which are the 2mm, are your parts like your shutters, the signs, the doorway frames, the attic. There's a piece that goes up in the attic, so that if you want your snipers up there, you can stand them on something. Also, the roof is made of 2 pieces, and these pieces here you can either leave in or you can pop them out. So you have to do that before you put the roof tiles on. There's arrows pointing down, which is the orientation of the roof. So the roof goes that way, and same on the other side. So you would pop these out, whichever ones you want, or leave it full, and then as you're tiling you will poke the tiles around and make them look all as if they've been hit with a shell. Or you can just do it as it is and have a perfect roof. It's entirely up to you. There's also included the brackets for the roof gutter, and some ladders, and a little hatch for the attic there. And these pieces here go into these parts here, and they make up some optional little sort of racks that can go in the ground floor by the shop part of the Boulangerie. If you want to have some shelves, you can just put those in, or you can leave them out. This part here will make up the chimney, and the rest of the pieces, as you'll see, make up the exterior facade on the corner. So it's not too difficult to build. The doors, they open and close, and there's little parts that hold the drain pipes in. So what you're going to do is, as we're building it, we'll put this drain pipe in and we'll cut it, and then it allows you to have the drain pipe, but obviously you need to take it in pieces, so it's quite modular. So first of all, I'm going to find all the pieces that make up the ground floor. They are the ones that are fully bricked. So as you see, what we've done is we've given you fully bricked lower floor, and the card can be used to skin it with plaster, so you can have full plaster or half plaster or just poke bits out. But the idea of giving you the full brick is you could always have full brick if you wished, or you could have full plaster, or the options are there. For the difference with the upper floor, the first floor, is there's only sections that are bricked in case you want to have those showing through the plaster. So you put the card skin on there and you can poke out these bits. Obviously we couldn't afford to put full brick on all of that, just in case you wanted to do it. So we've given you some there in case you do want those options, because it's very labor intensive, time consuming putting these, because what we've done with the brick pattern is, so if you can see there, these are individual bricks that have been etched. They're not, it's not just a grid. So to get a more realistic brick effect, each brick is individually etched into the wood to give it a more authentic feel, which takes a lot longer, but you know, it was worth doing in our opinion, because it just does give you a nicer brick effect. Now what you can do at this stage, I'm not going to do it during the video obviously because it would take too long, but what I did on the one that I built is, at this stage I looked at the building and I looked at how I could speed up the painting process while it was in pieces. So what you could do here, for example, is you could poke out the one for the upper floor, but all these door frames here and everything else, poke out this door and this one, but all these frames and the signs and everything, you could use some red oxide primer or car primer or something like that and just spray it and just get that done. And when you're poking them out, most of the job's done for you. Same with these, anything that's brick, you can spray that in red oxide, and the depth of the cut is quite deep, so you can spray it in red oxide and the depth and the black outline of the bricks will still show through. Okay, so just have a quick look. Sometimes it's worth just getting some masking tape and just mask off the pieces that you don't want a certain colour, spray them on the sprue very, very quickly outside, and then take the masking tape off, do it the other way, reverse the process. So that's what I did with the one that I've got on the pictures. On this one here, as you can see, that's all red oxide. And what I've done also is, when it had dried, got a bit of sandpaper and just roughly give it a bit of a highlight through the wood, so it looked like it was faded. And it was really, really quick to do. So there's grey primer for the card on the roof, but I sprayed that after I'd put the card down and glued it all, because the roof comes off separately, so you can spray it in one piece anyway. The card here is just the card's general colour. The only thing that I did with it was I wet it and rubbed it in, and what it does is it peels off in about 3 layers, so you can, you know, the more you're rubbing at it, the more deep you can go through down to the brick. Or and then these are just washes or thin down paint, just to give it, and the card soaks it up very well, and you can weather it up quite nicely. The Boulangerie sign, just painted it in with some thin paint and let it run into the engraving there. So little pointers for paint. Obviously do it any colours you like, but a little bit of thought in this at this stage might save you a lot of time later on, rather than you assembling it all up and then having to go in with a brush and getting frustrated. But like I say, on this instructional video, we're just going to assemble it as is. So I'm going to find all the lower pieces now, like I said, which was the with the brick, and then we'll put it in situation and see how we go. Okay, so the one that's fully bricked, you want the little tabs at the top that goes on this side. The one with the side window, tabs at the top, goes on this side. Obviously you'll be putting glue on. I'm just dry fitting them for this video. The one for the front shot window with the door will go in here, and the tabs, as you can see, tabs just giving a little bit of support. All these tabs and everything else will either be covered with a fascia or the card will cover them. It's like all of our kits, we hide any visible tabs. You can't just see that it's MDF that's stringed together. And what you can do is, when it comes off the sprue, just get an emery board. These are really good, rather than just using sandpaper. Really nice flat edge. Let's give it a tickle. There you go. And what you'll find is it'll stop you getting any headaches when you put it together, because although they're only small tabs, they do stick up a little bit, and that multiplies as the build goes on. So it's recommended that you sand those off. The one for the back is fully bricked, and that goes on there. Fits over the tabs over the top. So that's the back, the side, the front, and that's your core ground floor carcass. The single doorway goes in to there, and the stairs will locate into here as they come up. And what I'll do is I'll find the parts for those now, and I'll put some glue on, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so you want these two pieces here, and you want this interior wall piece here. One goes on the inside wall, the other one goes into that hole there to give you your bases for your staircase. The interior wall only goes in one way, and you can glue those together to give it extra support. It's recommended to let those set before we start gluing in the stair pieces, and we can also make sure that the wall here pulls up to the staircase for a neat finish. So once you've done that there and let it dry, we can move on to the next step, which will be putting in the stairs. Best using some tweezers for that. Okay, so the steps go in there. There's no risers, so they just butt up to each other, and work your way down, make sure everything's nice and square, and you should have a nice solid staircase there. And we'll move on to the next step. I think what we'll do now is we'll just finish off the ground floor. So we'll find some of the 2mm sheets with the detailing on, and we'll add that and put the doorways in. How the doors work is, as you can see on the main frame, there's a hole in the floor, and there's a hole in this main wall here for the tab for the doors, and the outer fascia panel holds the door in from this side, and on this side we'll put in another piece which will hold the door in on the inside. So as long as you don't get any glue around these parts here, the door will swing forwards and backwards, or at least swing backwards. I don't think it swings forward. I think I designed it so it didn't come forward, it goes backwards. Same with this one. But we'll look at that now, and I'll get the parts together. Parts that you need are the front fascia, the inside, the side window, and the inside. And these little details are just there to make it look nice, really. There's the front door. So back in a sec. Put the inside piece in first. As you can see there, little tab now, so you can put your door in, and it just sits without falling through. There's a little bit of play, obviously, to give it enough swing. So when we put the front fascia on, like that, we're putting it on to the edge of here. So there's a slight overhang here on this side, but that's because this piece, oops, butts up to it. Okay, and if you look, there's only one way it goes on, it fits right. So I think it's that way. Yep, it's like that. So there's one way, you'll flip it around, you'll see how it fits. And then the front butts up to this corner and makes it nice and neat and covers any joins on the MDF. Okay, so as you can see, the glue's still drying. But the beauty of this Gorilla Glue is you don't need to use a lot. There's the door, make sure it moves. Don't put any glue around the joint areas. There's the interior. There's the side. Just need to put the interior ring around there for detail. And another piece we're going to look at now is, if you look in this corner there, there's a little cutout. Now that's where the drain pipe is held. Now if you look on the sheet, you'll see front and rear. So they're both different designs. So obviously we need the front one. Put that out and then we'll stick it on. So see if we can do that. See how it goes on here. There's a piece missing on the fascia because it's on this piece here. So you want it like that basically. You glue it into place. That's how it goes. So it completes the fascia from the front, and it sits in nice with the brickwork on the side. So I'll just use a bit of Gorilla Glue. I have to apologise for my cold. Seems like I've had it for about 3 weeks. It's just not going anywhere. Okay, so there we go. So I'll just add a bit more glue on because we need that to be a nice strong joint. And when it's dry, we can put the drain pipe piece down and glue it into place. Obviously it'll be cut at this point, so the two pieces come off like so. Okay, so the door frames, I've chose to put 2 on there, 1 on there. Obviously you need 1 on the back. Put 1 on this side to hold the door in. Just make sure it's got clearance. I'll need to stick the window frame on the outside of there. Also, if you look here, these pieces with the squares, we'll need to add those pieces in manually. So if you look at the squares are here and the long pieces are here. Pair of tweezers, a little bit of glue, just poke them in, doesn't take too long. I'll do that on the next step. There we go, put all the pieces in on this side, and we're good to go. So next up, I believe, will be the first floor, so we'll get those components together now. So this is a rough shape, get my words back, this is the rough shape we're going for. A bit tongue-tied there. As you can see, you got the hole for the stairwell, and the lugs and the drain pipe on the bottom of there will go up to the top piece, and they overlap obviously. So it just consists of, front has got the symmetrical windows, the rear has got 1 large and 1 small. There's the interior with the doorway for the stairs and the side, and the tabs, you can see you can't get it wrong really, because I think I've offset them, so you can't put them in wrong, you can only go in one way. Tried to do that on more kits recently, is just to make it so it's easier, so it's more difficult to make a mess really. So little tabs there on the corners will overlap and go on those. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll put it back how it was with a bit of glue, and then we'll go to the next stage. Okay, so I've glued it all together. Banister rail, self-explanatory, just 2 pieces to go in there, just a little bit of detail. And before you start sticking on the sash windows, you want to put the card on, which is the next phase there first. Also, probably best leave until after the card, is putting these bits here. They stick through, and they stick through just enough so that the roof can balance on them, and just gives a bit of detail. But it's best to put the card on first and push them through that way, rather than trying to feed the card over it afterwards. So what I'll do now is I'm going to, in this instance, I'm going to put the card all over the sides just for this tutorial. But if you're going to do it so that you want the brick showing through, PVA all these parts here, but don't PVA the bricks obviously. Stick it on. Good idea to take a photo so you get the locations, and stick the card on, let it dry, and then once you've done that, you can wet the areas from your photograph, wet the areas, keep rubbing at it and peel it back, and you'll get the brick. So obviously painting this now at this stage is a good idea if you're going to do that, have the brick showing through. But it's quite effective, and if you want it, your more weathered effects to your building, there's little areas we've added, but like I say, I wish I could have done this all over the building so you had full flexibility, but the kit is already really time consuming to build, and it's not really cost effective, to be honest with you, but you know, we did want to make a decent looking brick effect. So you've got it. So you can either leave that as is. In this case, I'm going to leave brick all the way around the floor. But like I say, in the kit, you get the option. You can skin the whole thing if you want with plaster. Like I say, you know, put the sashes and the frame on the back because I'm not having plaster on it. And we'll just plaster the top half. Okay, back in a second. Okay, so the ones you need for the first floor, obviously the ones with the little cutouts. Now the ones on the front and rear, the little cutouts correspond to where the little hooks for the guttering go on. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The sides obviously are asymmetrical, I believe, so it doesn't matter which way you put them on. We're just trying to line up the holes best we can. There you go. And I'll get some PVA on, do the fronts, do the sides, and then come back. There we go. I've made sure I've got plenty of glue onto the corners, because what you can do if you've got a slight overlap is you can just, when it's dry, you can just wet the card and use an emery board and just smooth that corner in, and it sort of turns almost like the paper mache, and it blends it in, so you've got no definite corners there, which is the effect that you're after. So next up, I'll start pushing in the little pegs that go in there. Like I say, you want them coming in here so you can see it on both sides to hold the floor up. Okay, as the side pieces in, as you can see, they stick out. Side shutters, front and rear shutters are on. I'm just going to stick on the little pieces for the guttering, and then it's pretty much done. Okay, now at this stage, when we're putting these guttering hangers on, they're quite fragile when you're putting them in, so use plenty of glue and be careful with them at this point. Now, don't think that they're going to fall off every 5 minutes. There's no point putting them on, because once we put the card, we bend the card guttering in and coat it with some PVA, it goes rock hard and it's really, really solid. So at this stage, you just got to be careful that you don't break them off. Obviously, if you're going for a more, if you've done all the weathering and worn look and you want it all bombed out and you're going to have holes in the roof and all that kind of thing, you can have bits of guttering hanging off, and you can do a bit of scale modelling if you like to. That's the idea behind this kit. It's sort of on the border between wargaming and scale modelling. So it's sort of heading toward, you know, you can use it for dioramas and that kind of thing. You can put, you know, ivy and washes and all sorts of stuff. You could even put wallpaper on the inside before you assembled it, and have it all ripped off and that kind of thing. You can wash something like Agrax Earthshade onto this part here, and it gives you an instant floorboard colour. So it lends itself well as a kit for that kind of thing. A little bit of a crossover. There's more detail on it than it needs to have for a wargaming piece, but that was the idea behind it. So it looks different to everything else that's available on the market. Okay, so we're going to let that dry before we try and put the guttering in, because it'll just break off. And the next stage, we'll look at making the roof now while these are drying. Okay, for the roof, obviously the roof panels with the arrow facing down either way. You can see there where the chimney is going to sit. Now we have proper A-frames. These have tabs that go in here. Now the difference being that unlike most other manufacturers who'll just have tabs coming through and that's your roof, the only reason you can see the tabs at this stage is obviously because we're going to tile over it, so that we don't want any tabs visible. It's a real pet hate. It instantly makes your kit look like it's made from MDF. So a lot of design work goes into our kits and trying to hide tabs and it takes a bit longer, but you know, sometimes it'll take extra material with layers to cover things, but it's always worth it. So the A-frame, as you can see, I'm just dry fitting at the moment. The A-frame just goes like that, with these frames fitting on the inside holes, as you can see there. The outside holes are for these bits here, which are like fascias. They're like fascias. So they go like that. So you can push them in, and obviously they join flat at the top of the apex there, and come down to this chamfered angle at the bottom. And what this does is this gap here between the A-frame and this fascia, that gap is what your roof sits on, so it's nice and secure and it's not going to move around every 5 minutes. So I'll glue that together now and come back. Okay, so if there's a finished result, obviously at this point, if you want to poke out any of these tabs, you can have a hole as big as you want there, or you can just poke out little ones. Center blast here or none. In this case, we're just not going to do none. The chimney is these pieces, and they go like so. This has also got a skin of card with some flanges that just neaten it all off. It's a little bit overkill, but nice detail. So your little piece goes at the back there, and you build your chimney. And the next stage after we've done that is these little pieces that make up the chimney. Now that one is the first one. There was number 1 next to it on the sprue. You've got 2, 3 and 4 there, so obviously that's the next one. 3 overhangs a little bit, and then 4 sits there, so you've got a little bit of a detail. And then the rings sit on there to build up your chimney stack. Okay, and then once you build up your chimney stack, you can once you've done your tiling, you can skin the chimney. So I would advise that you don't stick the chimney on at this stage. We'll tile it up and then cut out the holes, or we'll, as we point out, we'll leave a space for the chimney to stick into, because like I say, it gets skinned and there's a little flange that can cover any bits that you've left out. It's just easier to stick them on as you go and just leave bits. So we're starting at the bottom with the tiles. We'll look at those in a second. You start from the bottom. It's laid out on the sheet with a little bit more than you need. There is a sequence that you can follow, but as you get to the top, there's a piece that goes over and caps it off, like you can paint it like a lead effect. So you should get quite an authentic look to the tiles once you've done them in the card. What else you're getting in the kit? Obviously, I'm not using this lower floor plaster, but you could if you wished. And these pieces that you just get here randomly, that just look a bit odd, like grills. What the idea of those is, you can overlay them like a crosshatch pattern if you wish, and any parts that you poke out on the inside you can stick and have sort of a trellis effect, or just put some going that way, or whichever way you want. You can cut them, break them, have them hanging down. It's just little extra details that are in the kit, just so that you can, it just saves you having to cut strips yourself and mess around, so you can make it look like there's interior structure to the building when the tiles are poked through. And that's all those pieces are for. So you can choose to ignore them or use them if you wish. Fact is, they're there in the kit. Other pieces, there's a ladder which can go from, you can either have it just in the roof like it's been pulled through, there's a little hatch, and you can either put it on or have it open, just extra details. You can put the ladder down there leading up the side of the wall. So if you're playing a game where you need to have physical representation of access points. That's what the ladder's for, basically. And obviously the stairs are included for the same reason. So it sort of future-proofs the building against any rule sets that you might have, or if you're just picky. Like I say, these pieces are the sides for these shelves that you just go inside the front of the shop if you wish, or you can just choose to ignore them. Okay, so I'll get the roof tiles set up and we'll show you the sequence. Okay, the first one you need is the one that says start on it, and there's a little strip there. Now the reason that strip's included, and it's just a little OCD thing, is if you put it on the bottom, when you start the tiles, it will always have the bottom one in the same orientation as the next, because they obviously overlap each other a little bit. And without putting that strip on, the bottom tile is always flat and it just looks wrong. So that's why that little strip is in there. So I'm going to put some glue on, and I'll poke a few of these strips out. And if you look here, there's a reason why they're in sequence. Is, as you can see, a full tile on the end and a half tile, full tile, half tile, full tile, half tile. There's no need to be trimming anything to get them to fit on. So everything should be quite straightforward. It doesn't take as long as you think to get your roof tiles doing. So we'll poke some out. They're only loosely fitted on, so don't want too many tabs. And then we're obviously keeping them in sequence as I lay them on the table, and then I'll show you what you do. Okay, so put a little bit of PVA on, starting with the bottom strip. Now if you want, you can always put a little bit on half of that edge there. And what you're doing, starting with the first one, obviously we want it to completely overlap the piece we've just put down. We don't want to see that piece, because like I say, it's only there to give us that angle. Okay, so start by completely covering that piece, and then get your PVA on your brush and PVA the flat uncut edge of there. Okay, now you get your half one. The key to this, to make sure you've got enough and to make sure it's all in sequence and looks right, is you're moving it down to where the cut starts, like so. So just line it up. The beauty of this Gorilla Glue is it gives you a few seconds to move to position, and then it goes pretty solid. So we're just moving up to that edge there. There you go. So again, just rinse, repeat. Bit of glue on that uncut edge. Now obviously we want the full tile, and we're just going to move it right up to the cut there. Just obviously trying to keep everything in line on the edges as we go. Now it's just rinse, repeat all the way up here. I'm going to cut out pieces when I get to the stage where the chimney goes. Now if you've poked holes through, what I suggest you do is just go over it completely, and as you're going right up to the hole, cut these pieces and have a few hanging down over the edge as you go. Because if you glue it all over and glue them on all over, then try and poke it out, it does go quite hard. It'd be quite difficult to get through these. So you poke them through beforehand, and then as you're working up, cut the card and bend them down and get some PVA on them so that they can set, and just be a bit creative with your damage. So I'm just going to continue up to the top now, and obviously we're getting get as near the top as we can. And then you do the other side the same, and the last thing you would do is use the piece here, which has got the etch on it, and that gets bent over the top for the lead capping. These bits here that you see next to the ones with holes in, these are your gutters. So once the gutter pegs, which are these, have dried, put some PVA on them, soften this piece with PVA. The holes are obviously where the drain pipe will go through. So you line those up on the sides with the drain pipe and soften it up with PVA and a bit of water. Bend them with, what you're best doing is put them in and bend them into position with the drain pipe. Use the drain pipe to push them in and curve it. And once it's sitting nice and it's in the sort of right location, coat it with some more PVA, let it dry, and then see how it is. If it's nice and solid, obviously you've done the right job. If it's still got a bit of movement in it, just hit it with some more PVA and it just makes it go solid. The only other thing after that is, if you wish, you don't have to, I've included the little end caps that you can put on. Once this is curved, the little end cap, put a bit of PVA and a pair of tweezers, you can put the end caps onto the for the gutters there. The reason there's so many is just in case you lose some in the process, so you only need to use 4. But other than that, that's it. The parts for around the chimney are these pieces here. So there's a etch, which is just for the design, and you can bend it to get the little flanges of design so they bend around the chimney. So you just got 4 pieces to go around your chimney, and just tops it off nicely. So I'll continue with the roof tiles, get to the top, and you can see what the effect looks like. Give you an idea of where the first full sheet will take you. It will take you to about here. As you can see, I'm leaving a gap, and then obviously there's another 2 sheets worth. So as long as you're butting them up to the cut points, you should get a nice tile effect. And you can prime. I primed mine with grey car primer to seal it, and then I've used washes on it and flicked weathering powders and all sorts of stuff. You know, you can get that sort of green mossy effect, or you can flick a bit of white around the top, around the chimney, you know, for like bird excrement and that kind of thing. You can paint the lead piece black and then gunmetal, and you can go to town if you want to, but there's the side, but that's what you do. The top then fits into here, and it's nice and secure, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so I'll finish off the roof this side and I'll do the guttering. Okay, so where are we? Like I say, I've soaked the card, holes there for the drain pipe. I've used the skewer, that's bamboo skewer that's in here for the drain pipe. I've used it to bend, gently squeezing along these pieces, not to put too much pressure on them. And then I've just coated it with PVA, and as it's drying I'm just making sure I'll push those bits in there. And you don't want it to be perfectly straight, but you want it to look like it's an old sort of weathered piece of guttering. And if you put the roof on, you'll see that it lines up with the roof. It's the right width. And there's the back, waiting for the tiles. So everything's as should be. So I'll just build up the chimney now, because when that's dry is the point at which I'll start measuring out where I need to cut these drain pipes, and do that last. So like I say, let it dry so it goes nice and solid, and then take it from there. Right, so there's the finished article. So you can see they're guttering, and obviously not put that on straight, so just put the signs on, All the shutters are on. There's the chimney with the card around it. Now what you can do is, once it's, this isn't properly dry yet, but once it's dry you can just dampen the corners a little bit and just smooth them with an emery board, and it'll make it nice and smooth. They're made slightly bigger for that reason on two sides, so that you can smooth it round. Make sure you get a nice finish on it. There's the rear with the brick effect at the bottom, obviously. Like I say, it's customizable. You don't have to have it this way. You can have it full plaster if you like. There's the same. There's the full amount in the kit, and this makes it customizable. You could even have two of these and make two completely different. You could leave the signs off one and have one all plaster, or turn the sign over and paint your own thing on it, or whatever. Have one that's all bombed out. This is pretty much the pristine version that I've done here, just for the speed of the video. So what I've done is got the skewer, and you have to sand them. You give them a light sand to get them to fit in, because they're all different sizes. It's impossible for me to make holes that fit every single pack of skewers. They're all completely different, the barbecue skewers are. So I mean, it's all high-tech stuff, obviously we're using barbecue skewers. But it does the trick, and it's in the kit, so you don't have to find them. The shelves, I've left them loose at the moment, so they're slightly angled so that you can put them against the front window. And there's another one for the side window if you wanted to break them, or whatever you want to do, just add a little bit of interior detail to them. So I made them because there was room on the sprue. So there's the ground floor, same with the rear drain pipe. The upper floor, obviously, you do the same thing, you push it through the guttering, and also when you glue it in place it helps to support the guttering a bit more. Now that's getting quite tough now, so I mean, you can paint it and it'll be fine. You can always put like leaves or detritus in there, and if you're doing a diorama or going for the extra detailing. But like I say, you don't have to put any of this on if you don't want to. You could always leave these little tabs off. You could leave the drain pipes and the guttering off if you didn't want to. The rail here, I've glued that down, and I've just put a little bit of glue on the ladder just so it doesn't roll around everywhere. But the rail there is simply because before I was using the hole to lift it out, but it's just a bit of a pain when you in the gameplay you just want to be able to take it out. So that's all that's there for, a little decorative rail just to give it ease of pulling out, so you can have your snipers up in the loft shooting out of the holes that you've poked out of the roof. That's the idea behind that one. You've got the interior pieces in there, there's just extra details. So that's that. That's why I turned it around, haven't I? There you go. Put that up in there. So that way. That way. And the roof, like I say, it didn't push any of it out on this one for the demo. It gives you an idea of what you can do. There's only about 4 rows left on the sprues because I put them in the right sequence, the right distance apart. And it's quite strong. You get a nice groove and it locates quite well. And all you have to do is give the sides sometimes a little bit of a pinch, and it drops into place, and it's very sturdy once it's in place. And there's your finished piece. And there's lugs that they're all hidden when it's together, so when you look inside you don't see any lugs. There's no visible pegs anywhere other than the ones that are there for decoration purposes that are supposed to be there. And obviously need some more glue on that. Yeah, always make sure that the edges are the key parts to this plaster. But once you've glued it down with some decent glue, you shouldn't have any problems. There's enough gap to compensate for the 1mm skin. And you can see the drain pipes. So I think I've shown you everything you need to know on how to build a boulangerie. It's quite customizable. I think at the moment it's £27 on the website. I can't really do it any cheaper than that, unfortunately. It just takes a long time to do all this etchwork and individual bricks. I mean, normally you'll just get lines for bricks, which just looks like a grid, and you never get that full brick effect. And you don't normally get roof tiles. That's normally expansions that you would buy and the roof tile kits and stick them on, but it all comes with everything that you see here. So I think it's good value, and it's a nice little addition to your Normandy tables if you're going to do one. Hopefully I'll get some time to make a few more buildings. I was going to do one that's 2 of these, a few terraces maybe, maybe some semis, just a few different types of shops. I was just going to do variants of this. I have got a it's been nearly finished for about a year now, the ruined version of this. So you can just lift it out, the same base plate, you can just lift it off and put the ruined version straight down. But I just haven't had time to do it. I'm going to paint some up, I think, and make a little Normandy village. I'll try and get a church and maybe a few other useful buildings for the range, so it's not just on its own. So I hope you've liked the video. I hope it's been easy to follow. If you have any questions, you can always post them on the Facebook page or email me at pez@darkops.co.uk. And we always answer messages, always reply and try the best we can. And thanks for watching.